Will euthanasia ever be legal in America? You know, that's not a question. And you just said it makes me question whether euthanasia will ever be legal in America. I think if euthanasia ever got accepted in the U.S., I think it's going to be in like Vermont. You know what I mean? Like Vermont is that kind of state. It's full of white liberals, and they don't mind killing their grandparents. Vermontians and Delawareese people from Delawareese. Who else? People from Maine, maybe. Rhode Island, those types of states, they kind of remind me of those northernmost European countries like Belgium or Denmark. Delaware sounds kind of like Denmark, and I think those states would be the ones that would euthanize their parents because they kind of remind me of those northern European people. That's why I say that. Those people are cold-blooded. There was a terrible story that I remember reading. It was from the Netherlands. Pretty certain it was the Netherlands. And basically, this old lady who did not want to die, she was pressured into being killed. She was being pressured by the elderly care center to die. They were like, "Hey, do you want to die?" And she's like, "No." Like, "You sure?" She's like, "Yeah, I don't want to die." And they said, "Are you sure?" He said, "Yeah." And she said, "Yeah." So her husband went to the elderly care center and said, "Kill the bitch." And they gave her a cup of coffee. She drank it. And it was one of those chemicals that weaken your body. And she tried to fight back. And her kids were there, and they were grown up. And her husband was there. And she was trying to fight back. And the doctor looked at one of her children. I think it was her son or her daughter. I think it was her son. And the doctor said, "Hold her down." And he held her down. And then he gave her the poison and killed her. And that was murder. So when you talk about euthanasia, that's the type of thing that you're inviting. You're inviting that sort of crime to happen. Are you sure that's a true story? Yes, I am 100% certain that's a true story. Dr. Venkin was the name of the doctor. The Nazis are still with us. Europe hasn't changed. People sit there and they're like, "Oh, Europe's changed so much. Just a place where we can have pizza and croquettes and drink the finest coffee. We can go to like Estonia, Lithuania." It's like, you guys realize that there was a horror. There was like a world war, okay, in Europe. Millions of people died. They were literally taking retarded children and doing experiments on them. They were taking the brains of retarded children, and that was considered science. They were doing experiments on civilians, prisoners of war. Like, this is if anything, Europe is a giant haunted house. You know how you hear about these haunted houses, like, well, there was a murder in the house, and books are flying off the shelves. That's Europe. Europe is a giant haunted house. There was some serious evil that happened there. I mean, I went there. I went to Italy. Now, Spain, I felt cool. I was in the land of Franco, so I felt okay when I was in Spain. When I was in Italy, man, I felt like I was in a haunted house. That place is weird, especially when I went to St. Peter's Basilica. I went to St. Peter's Basilica. That's a weird ass place, let me tell you. And all the you see all the priests walking around. And I've never seen so many priests in one area in my life. I mean, you are in the Vatican, right? You're in Vatican City, which has the lowest divorce rate in the world because the women are all nuns and the men are all pedophiles. Well, I mean, a good chunk of them are, at least. So that's why they have such a low divorce rate. Very modest country, very moral and modest country, the Vatican City. That Vatican City is so moral and Christian, I really admire it. But anyway, yeah, I went to the Vatican, and yeah, full of cardinals, and you see the archbishops there walking around with their cell phones. God knows what they're planning. What evils were committed in that city? What evils? We have yet to even measure them.